Well, we're going to get into today. We're potentially supposed to have your partner in crime, and what we're going to talk about today. Miss Judy, how do you say her last name?
Jody DeVore.
Jody DeVore.
Yes.
And we'll get her another time.
Yes.
But we're going to start in prayer, and then I'm going to read today's gospel, and which was kind of correlated to things. It's funny how that works. I mean, yeah, the gospels can, each day you read them, they'll bring something about, but it would kind of pertain to y'all. But yeah, we'll start in prayer and get rolling.
Okay.
All right. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Come, Holy Spirit, fill our hearts and minds today. Give us the gift of tongues to share your word, share your experience, share your community. We are thankful that Miss Etta was here today, gave us a little bit of her time, and we are just grateful to hear her mission and her story and about her family. Keep our hearts oriented towards your heart, that we can become one. And we want to pray, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. And Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Hi, friends. Jacob Zumo here, sacred artist and host of Saints by Number podcast that celebrates our community and the living presence of Jesus in our culture. If you'd enjoyed our episodes and feel inspired by the stories we've shared, we need your help to keep this mission alive. This podcast is self-funded, and while we've made it through 15 impactful episodes, we're looking to expand, improve, and reach even more hearts. You can support us in two ways. First, consider sponsoring the show. Your sponsorship helps cover production costs and allows us to continue spreading hope and faith to the community. Second, visit our website at www.jzumo.com to purchase artwork that reflects the beauty of our faith. Every piece you buy not only supports this podcast, but also brings sacred art into your home. Together, we can keep sharing the presence of Jesus alive in our world today. Thank you for your prayers, love, and support. Again, visit www.jzumo.com or reach out for sponsorship details. Let's continue this journey together. So, today's gospel was kind of great. I don't know if you've read it yet or if you went to Mass.
No, I did the Pray 40. I'm doing the Pray 40 challenge, so that's what I do in the mornings.
Okay. Is that a Hallow thing?
Yes.
I know. We supposedly, Father Josh just said that we got it for free through the parish. I'm like, yes, because I've been holding off.
Yes.
I held off just in time.
You should. This is it's an amazing. It really has been better than last year's. And the last year's was amazing. It was on surrender. This is about a little bit of surrender as well, but it's based on two different books. The Way from San Jose Maria Escrivá de Balaguer, and then the other one is Songs from Nagasaki, which is another hopefully saint one day.
Japanese.
Yeah.
I think I've heard a little bit about that.
It was like his conversion story too in Japan.
Yeah.
I heard about it, so
amazing.
It got me interested, and I'm like, okay.
It's hard, so I have to listen to it in the morning to be able to listen to it at night with the kids, because I need to monitor. There's things that they're just so strong. I mean, because they're talking about the atomic bomb and the conversion of Christians because of that. So think about, what you're talking.
Tragedy, yeah.
Yes, I mean, like, we talk about these little things that worry. These people were decimated. Like, they had 200,000 people died on impact
at one moment,
and then there were I think 15,000 that were left behind and died within 10 to 15 minutes because their skin was pulling off. I mean, they literally were just thirsty. They would drink something and die. It was horrible. I mean, what they describe is just, so it's very heavy content.
Yes.
Very graphic.
And so very graphic. They do an amazing job, because it's Jonathan Rumi, Father Mike, Sister Miriam,
Yeah.
And Mark Wahlberg and Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
They do amazing. I mean,
Is Chris Pratt Catholic?
no, he's
No,
Christian.
He's Christian.
Dang, come on.
But he does the parts where they just read scripture.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, though. It really is amazing that he's using his platform for this. So praise to be God.
Yeah, amazing. Well, today's gospel is John 4:43 to 54. You want me to read it? Or you want to read it?
Oh, yeah.
You want to read it?
Yeah, you can hold
Good.
my copy.
Yeah.
Okay, so return to Galilee. After 2 days, he left there for Galilee, for Jesus himself testified that a prophet has no honor in his native place. When he came into Galilee, the Galileans welcomed him, since they had seen all he had done in Jerusalem at the feast, for they themselves had gone to the feast. Second sign at Cana. Then he returned to Cana in Galilee, where he had made the water wine. Now there was a royal official whose son was ill in Capernaum. When he heard that Jesus had arrived in Galilee from Judea, he went to him and asked him to come down and heal his son, who was near death. Jesus said to him, "Unless you people see signs and wonders, you will not believe." The royal official said to him, "Sir, come down before my child dies." Jesus said to him, "You may go, your son will live." The man believed what Jesus said to him and left. While he was on his way back, his slaves met him and told him that his boy would live. He asked them when he began to recover. They told him the fever left him yesterday, about 1 p.m. The father realized that just at that time Jesus had said to him, "Your son will live." And he and his whole household came to believe. Now this was the second sign Jesus did when he came to Galilee from Judea.
So I thought that was awesome. Yeah, I thought that was awesome in pertaining to today. We'll kind of throw that in as we go. But kind of what I took reflection from it was, first let me introduce you though. Let me introduce what you're doing. Etta, obviously we introduce you in our personal way, but your ministry, you have 2 special needs boys.
Yes.
And I guess
it's God's ministry, though. It's not mine.
Right, sure. Right. God's ministry.
Yes.
And so basically you had kind of briefed us, and I'll brief the introduction of just your experience of the Mass for our normal eyes and mind, and creating sensory masses for special needs children and families. And so I with this gospel, I was thinking like just bringing your needs to the Father, and then being met like candidly, and you know, whatever your needs are, bring them to the Father and do the work as well, and they'll be answered. And so the same as this official had kind of brought his blind faith to Jesus, and he was kind of like not lackadaisically, but just like nonchalantly like, go and your son is healed. But having that like mustard seed of faith to like true mustard seed faith for that to happen in your heart. So
it's funny that you say that. And you know, I was brought up in a Catholic family. I always was Catholic. I always felt compassion, and I always felt like, you know, I think as mothers we always feel like we know how to take care of our babies. And I had 2, you know, typical children. I had Matthew and Jeremy, who are, you know, they were, I want to say Matthew was, oh gosh, how old was Matthew when Noah was born? He was like 8, 9. And then Jeremy was, you know, a little bit younger than that. And we had Noah. And Noah was, I mean, I wanted to have more children. Like from the get-go, Scott and I knew that we were going to have a bunch of kids. He always thought we were going to have 2, and I always told him we were going to have 6. And we did have 6. We actually, you know, I had a miscarriage. But no, when Noah was born, he was a typical child, curly hair, beautiful little boy. He had little sad eyes, but he was beautiful. And to me, there was nothing wrong with him, right? And so he grew up, and when he was about maybe 1.5, 2, I started seeing things that were just not typical from the other 2. And there's a sense of denial that, you see all these things and you just compensate. You're like, oh, well, he's like that, well, he doesn't like that, or he's just different like that. Like, it's not a big deal. But I never really accepted that in my heart, that there was something wrong, because there's nothing wrong with him, right? It's just he's different, right? So I remember he was violent. Like, he did things that it was not normal. Like, even if you like were around him, he would slap you, or he would like, hurt you, like push you away. And I always thought that was a little odd, that it was almost like he had this space that couldn't be invaded. And if you came into it, he was going to fight you for it. And typical kids are not like that. Yeah. He never shared anything. He never really made eye contact. And I wasn't very, very well educated to know that these were signs, because autism has been something that's been prevalent for a very long time now in our society. And I didn't know anything about it. In fact, we had several discipline issues in his Mother's Day Out program, to the point where one of the teachers, who was an ABA therapist too, told me, like, you need to take your son to see a neurologist. And I was so offended. I was so upset. Sure. And I told her, like, how dare you tell me, like, what I need to do with my child? Like, you're a teacher. Like, don't. Yeah. I was so dismissive, and so I regret that. I was so upset. I was so upset that she said that. And look, Noah was doing things at the time that were pretty, it was pretty obvious. Now that I see it, now that I look back at him, like, oh my God, yes. So he would be obsessed. Like, if he was to drink water from the water fountain, the very first time that he went to the school, he had to drink from that water fountain, no matter where he was. So if he was on the other end of the school, they couldn't make him go to the other water fountain. He had to come back to the first one and drink from there. And so those were things that teachers wouldn't accommodate. And if they didn't, it was a tantrum. And it wasn't a 5-minute tantrum. It was a whole day tantrum, to the point where we had to come pick him up from school. Same thing with like urinals, stalls. Like, if if there was someone there, I mean, he would just, like, there were things that he just did, like I said, typical things. I was like, this is not normal. Like, this is just not, But you continue to live your life. You continue to drop off kids in school and go to work and do all these things, and you don't think much of it, because it's just life, right? And so we just accommodated to him. Got to a point where he was 4 that it was like, we have to take him. Like, the principal of the school sat with me, and she said, I love you and I love your kid, and I'm never going to kick him out of this school. But you need, like, I think it's come time for me to have that come to Jesus, talk to you. And I was like, well, I guess maybe there's 2 people, 2 professionals that have told me that I need to take him to the neurologist. So let's go. And so I went and I sat down, and we did this, prehistory with the doctor, like all the things that were happening at home and all the things that he had done. And I mean, she looked at me without, it wasn't even like she had to draw a test or, like draw blood or anything. She just looked at me and she's like, your son's autistic. And I was like, yeah. Like, I knew. And it hurt my heart, because you don't want to tell anybody. And at the time I didn't. I actually came back home, cried, and I was like, I'm not telling anybody. Like, this is not something that I'm sharing with anyone. Like, Scott and I sat together, and he was like, we don't have to tell anybody. In fact, that caused problems later, because we never told the school, we never told anybody. We would just make accommodations for Noah. So I created this newsletter saying, like, these are Noah's triggers. Like, these are the things that Noah wants to have, and it would really be helpful to you if you did this for Noah, so that Noah wouldn't throw a tantrum or something like that. And so we ended up pulling him out of Catholic school, because it was just too much. There was no way. It wasn't them. It was really, like, there was no way that they could accommodate all his needs. And we went to the public school system, which was amazing. I mean, when I tell you amazing, like, I wouldn't never, ever, ever say anything bad about at least the public school system where we are in Ascension Parish in Prairieville. The school had, the week before, like, we met with them in the summer before Noah went even to school. They had a whole room decorated with his favorite color, just to adapt him to that. They had a whole corner of him for him to decompress and go and like sit there, all his favorite color, like everything. They had taken all these extra little steps to make him feel comfortable and make him feel better, that it was just it was such a relief. It was like coming from fighting for every little thing to no, like, he's going to do that. It's fine. Like, he doesn't have to sit there. He can sit on the floor if he wants to. We're still going to pay attention. It's not a big deal. And so that little accommodating made a huge difference. And Noah was able to excel in primary school. I mean, he's done amazing. But we've been through everything with him. And so, God, there are so many things that I can say about Noah. But then, you know, Noah's 17, so Mark's 13. So 4 years later, I had, when I thought I had Noah under control, I had Mark. And Mark was precious as well. They look like twins. They're very much alike. And we knew immediately, though, as soon as Mark was 2 when he was diagnosed, because we knew. The moment we started seeing the same patterns with him, I was like, this cannot be happening again.
At 2?
At 2. So
what did that look like?
So it was more obvious, I think, because my neighbor, which was a very good friend of mine at the time, was also pregnant and had a baby at the same time. And so they were doing things together the whole time. And I could see Ethan do things that Mark wasn't doing. There was no talking. There was just delayed in everything. He was very independent, but he wasn't getting, just cognitive and just looking like the same thing. Eye contact, the tantrums, the repetitiveness, the staying in one place and just stemming and doing things that you could just, know. Like, you could just see him and know, okay, why is he doing that? Like, there's something off of him. He would, my dad used to say, he just likes the sound of things when they crash on the floor because he would just throw things all the time. He was never violent like Noah. He never hit anybody, but he really did have this thing for throwing things and turning off lights and on and off and the destroyer, destroying.
Yeah, and then you're boys will be boys, but
exactly,
this is a little different.
Exactly. But then what's the limit, right? Like, that's the thing as parents, we're not giving a manual saying, hey, this is normal and this is what you need to do to this child for them to excel. You're like, oh, this is easy. No, you just have to figure out, engage where to go with that. So when Mark was diagnosed, it was almost like Noah prepared us for Mark because I kind of already knew therapy and all these things. So we were so blessed because when Mark turned 2.5, since Noah was already in the public school system, I reached out and they told me about early steps. And so we got him involved with therapies at that age. So he was able to start getting, his therapies, because with these kids, they're with these kids, see my accent comes out.
I love it. Yeah.
My kids make fun of me all the time. They're not regulated, so that's why they're constantly are either hurting hitting themselves because they're trying to compensate for how they feel, because their body is not they don't feel their bodies as we do. They don't recognize the limits of their bodies like we do. I always say, when you're driving a car and you get into a new car and you kind of have the feel of how big the front of it or how long the back of it is. Okay, so that's how it feels once you were driving it for a while. These kids still don't know where their bodies, you know what I mean? That's the same feeling of it. They're still not completely aware of it. So that's why they're constantly either falling, they think they're clumsy, but it's just because they really don't have control over all these reflexes and all these things that it comes normal to us, right? We were able to develop these things at crawling, at walking. They were not able to do that. So Mark was much harder because he wasn't talking. Noah could speak, and so Noah would tell us what he felt, and it was easier to talk to him, even though Noah was a little bit more impulsive. With Mark, it was really hard because there was no speech. And so at 3, normally kids were saying mom, dad, there was no words. It was complete silence. And so
in a sense, I bet that kind of was a little relieving. You had 3 and that was constantly talking and you're okay.
Yeah. And the thing is, we've always accommodated in a way. So it's always been, that's him, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. And we ended up getting early steps, and then early steps for us, they took us, I don't know, there was this program I don't even remember how we got into like that's how it was. They referred us to the LeBlanc Center, who had they do a screen test for all the kids, hearing and vision. And so we took him there, and they were doing the hearing test where he ran out the door because they have to put them in these small rooms, and he could not handle that. He opened the door and he ran out, and this lady picked him up and grabbed him. And her name, I never forget, her name was Mary. And she and I started talking. I was like, thank you for grabbing my child. I'm so sorry to run into you. And she said, talk to me about him, because she knew she worked with special needs kids. And so she was like the director of the place, and she was actually running a pilot program with special needs kids. And she was looking for kids that met this criteria, that were active, aware, because a lot of autistic kids are completely asleep, right? Like not asleep, but they're not completely there. They're nonverbal completely. Mark, you could tell he would make sounds, like he would attempt to say things, but nothing would come out. It was just really hard. It was more like grunts than anything. And so she told me, she's like, I think he would qualify for this program that I'm running, but I don't want to assure you of anything, she said, because we don't know. I said, that's fine. That was, I think, in May, June timeframe. So then she invited us over to do a full screening of Mark. And so we went back, I want to say like mid-June or something like that. And then we never heard of her. So it was like, okay, well, that's the end of it, right? So we went to the Emerge Center to see if we can get him in there, because he needed all these therapies and all these things early. And so it was very expensive to get him there, but we were going to, willingly make the sacrifice to put him there. And there was a huge waiting list, and we had to do all these things. And it was really hard to get into the Emerge Center, which was, a great place. But we went through the process, but I don't think that we got in the first time. Like it wasn't possible, but we said, whatever, he's going to stay home then. If he can't go there, he's 4, you know what I mean? Like he can still stay another year home, and he'll be with my mom, and it'll be fine. And so we got a call in September from Mary. And she said, this program is taken off. We got the money for it, and we would like to see if you're interested. And I always thought, when she referred to a program, that it was some sort of therapy like we did with Early Steps. Because Early Steps was like an hour here, an hour there, 3 times a week or something like that. And I was happy with that. I was like, that's fine. If you want to come to my house and have that, that's perfect. Well, when she called me, she said, you need to come to the school, and we're going to do we're going to sign the paperwork to get him in the program. And I was like, okay, perfect. So we went in, and I kid you not, it was like 12 people in one room, in a conference room, long, like table. And I didn't even invite Scott. Like Scott wasn't even there, because I thought I'm just going to.
Nonchalant. Yeah.
So I walked in and was like, what is going on? And she's like, well, we just want to let you know that Mark, is officially in the program. And I'm like, that's awesome, And so we started signing. I mean, have you ever been in school? Have you ever signed an IEP or any? Well, you guys are too young. You don't know. But an individualized education plan is a plan for special needs kids. And these plans are like super long, and there's all the people that touch the kids. So all the SPED teachers, all the paraprofessionals, all the OTs, the speech, anybody that has to do with these kids are present in this meeting, because you kind of work with them to tell them what the expectation is, and they tell you what the expectation is on their side as well. So it was something like that. It was
this at a hospital?
At a school. It was at a school. It was at the school, at the public school, at the primary school. So I sat down. I had never been through that, because, mind you, I had never told anybody that Noah was autistic. Like Noah was just having a 504 plan, meaning like he just had special accommodations. He really never went through that, because it was a big secret. We didn't want to tell anybody. But with Mark, there was no hiding it. Like we needed help. And so we sat there, and she said, no, you're in the program. And I was like, that's awesome. So what does that mean? Like when do I have to drop him off and pick him up? And she said, from 7:00 in the morning to 3:00 in the afternoon.
Oh.
I'm like, what are you talking about? That's the whole day. And she said, yes, it's the school program. There's 5 kids. There's a ABA. The girl, the teacher, had graduated from Columbia, and she had a boyfriend and moved to New Orleans and happened to be able to teach. So we had this amazing resource. This girl that pretty much set the program up was here for a couple of years and wanted to teach. So she was the lead teacher. There was 3 paraprofessionals with 5 kids in one classroom, receiving ABA therapy all day long, like
what a
interacting. I started crying. I was like, this is
Like
public school.
Yeah, what a
So
blessing.
everything paid for through our taxes, right? Like I didn't have to. I'm like, what? I
That's
started
tax dollars
crying.
at work.
Exactly. I was like
Yes,
crying.
gosh.
I'm like, this is amazing. Like I couldn't believe we were blessed that way. And so he went in the last week of September. By November, Mark was saying, like he said that his first word was up. And that was a celebration, like unbelievable. Like we could not believe that he had said up, because that was unheard of. Like he didn't say anything. He would just grunt.
Yeah, to think at 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
So
yeah.
shortly after that,
That would be nice for us.
And the thing is, yeah, sometimes you want
Talking,
to
yeah.
Believe me, I do now as well. He speaks a lot. But it was just so amazing. And I remember, I would have conversations with his teacher almost on a daily basis of what's the expectation, because we wanted him to talk, because once they speak, you can hear what they have to say, and that creates independence, right? Because if you don't know what they want, how can you, it's so hard. Like, what do you want? Like, you're screaming, but I don't know what you want. And so the fact that he was learning to communicate, like, went from here, the anxiety level, to here, because all these little things that we didn't know what he needed or what he wanted, he did. Now he compensated so well because he's very smart. And so he would do all these things without asking us. Like if he wanted a glass of water, he would pull the ladder, go into the cabinet, get the glass and get the water and go out, and it was fine. It was a mess, but he did it on his own.
Yeah.
So he was very independent in that sense. And I think that's what helped us a lot, was the fact that he never really like sat down and just waited he would get frustrated, but he always helped. And I videoed a lot of his development in those years. And I did it because I thought it would be nice to see how much he would get better. And it's true. I mean, it is amazing how much he's improved throughout the years. He can still do better. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I want to strangle him like this morning.
So can we though. Yeah.
Absolutely. But so, I'm sorry I went off a tangent, but that's how we uncovered, the autism in our family and our kids. So at this point, a lot of our family still didn't know about Noah, and so we officially came out with Noah when he was probably in, like, I want to say second or third grade, and we sat down with everybody and we're like, look, we want to tell our family that, like my parents, my sister, and everybody kind of knew, but it was just so much easier, I think, to educate everybody and say, hey, like, Noah and Mark are different, and it's okay, and we just need help because we're managing this the best that we can. We don't know how to do this. We don't know how to do life with 2 kids with autism. We don't know. There was a lot of guilt at the beginning for me, thinking, what did I do? Did I eat something wrong? Did I not? Did I have too much of this? Did I work too hard? Did I not do the things that I'm supposed to do so that my body, was adequate and healthy so that I can nurture these 2 babies? There was a lot of guilt of that. But at the same time, you have to surrender and give it to God and understand that God gave me these kids, and they're a gift. They've made me a better mom, a better person. And I truly believe that. Like, I'm not just saying that. Like, and I talked to my brother because he's got a special needs baby too. His baby has Down syndrome. And he always tells me, like, we're part of a club that we would never choose to be in this club. But now that we are in this club of families, it's pretty cool. And we help each other. And we find happiness in the little things. You know what I mean? It's like I said, when comparing is hard. That's the hardest thing. When you have a typical child that is exactly the same age as your child, talking, functioning, sitting down, like being able to have a normal conversation like we're having, and then seeing mine destroying everything, being a mess, like deregulated, you know what I mean? Like all these things. It is hard. It is hard because then you feel judged. You feel like, I'm not a good mom, so that's why he can't sit still. I didn't teach him how to do that. That's why he's eating like that, or that's why he screams all the time. Because now Mark is going through this thing where he's very loud. So he went from not talking, I told you.
I found my voice.
Exactly. He found his voice and his veins pop.
Can you tell us too, while you brought up your brother, can you tell us a little bit, can we like revert a little bit about So you're Honduran.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing and your family and just tell us that and how y'all were brought up Catholic or and then when you moved here. So I'm hearing all of this.
Yes.
And you can tell it in chronological order of however, like if this was in Baton Rouge, this public school and all that.
So I was born and raised in Honduras. I lived in Honduras my whole life and had no intentions of ever living anywhere else but in Honduras. Was very happy. I had a very happy childhood. My father was in the Army. My mom worked part of the time that when we lived in Honduras. Then she decided to retire and had opened different little stores. She had a boutique at one time. She had different little things that she did, but for the most part, she was just a mom, My parents have been together for 56 years now.
Yeah.
So they're a wonderful example of what a marriage should be and is. I love them and I love their witness to our faith and I love what they've taught us. They've been amazing parents. I'm very, very close to them and very close to my mom and for both of them. I'm for sure for both of them. But anyway, grew up in Honduras. I'm one of 5. So I have a sister and a twin brother. Then I have another brother.
You're a twin?
No, my sister and her twin. Yes, they're twins. Okay. Then I have another brother, then myself, and then I have a younger brother. So it's 5 of us.
So you're 4 in the line?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, 4 in the surprise. Yeah. But I was a surprise too. So my mom always says that because my dad was actually in Brazil. My dad traveled a lot and he was in Brazil for a year. And my mom went to see him a couple times, clearly. Mm-hmm. So they always say, like, I was conceived in Brazil. So I'm Brazilian. But I was born in Honduras. And like I said, I had a beautiful childhood. I loved living there. My father was always working and provided for us and did a wonderful job at that. And my mom, I was in a bilingual school. That's how I can speak English. I was very fortunate. We weren't dirt poor. We weren't rich. We were like middle class, but over there, middle class is probably high class because there's a lot of poverty in Honduras, and so I can't tell you that I didn't have enough. I always had everything that I wanted, and more than anything, I always had everything that I needed. Mm-hmm. I think that's the most important thing. My mom never lavished us with expensive, stuff. It was always what we needed. And it was perfect. I think my mom did a really good job at that. So growing up in a family like that, we went to mass every Sunday. I remember that was our big thing. We would go to mass at 11:30 and then go to eat after. And that was like the best day for me. Like going to mass and then going to eat was like the highlight of my day. Mm-hmm. Wherever we wanted to eat, my dad always took us to eat and it was so much fun. But I always knew that I wanted to be like more, like I wanted to travel more. I would watch a lot of American TV and I loved it. I just loved the whole idea. I loved Saved by the Bell. I used to watch like high school stuff and it was like, that is so much cooler than here. Like I want to live in the States one day. Like, but it was just childhood things,
crazy to think that like that's how people outside of the States look at it.
Yeah.
We're just so spoiled.
Yes.
I look at like London like that too.
Yeah.
Their fashion, they have like all
that's
these,
true.
and
like. But see, the funny thing is that I always thought, well, in the States, they all like the parents kick their kids out of, as soon as they go to high school, they kick them out, and I never understood like why do they leave their home? Like that is so strange because we don't do that. Yeah. So anyway, then I did it, and so then. I heard my middle brother, my brother Luis, was here in the States studying. He had gotten married, and he told me, he's like, "Do you want to come and study here?" And I mean, I didn't even think about it, to be honest with you. Like I said, there were dreams of girls. You know how you say something like, "I'll be there someday," whatever. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't like I worked hard at it or I wanted to be here. It was almost like once everybody started applying to schools, it was like, maybe I should look into that. And so I first went to school in Honduras. I graduated, went to college in Honduras, but there were too many. So the school in Honduras, I don't know. There's what do they call? Not riots.
Protests.
Protests. Yes. So they would stop. There were no school. So out of the week, there were 2 days that we would not have school. Sometimes 3 days that we wouldn't have school. Because they would shut down the department or whatever, and we couldn't go in, or they would block the gates and we couldn't go in. So it's like, what? That's what I said. What? This is not good. So then, to be very honest with you, that and piled up with the fact that my boyfriend at the time and I, it was kind of like wishy-washy. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to show him. I'm going to leave. He's going to miss me. It was really something that stupid. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a thought out like plan. God and his providence brought me here. But anyway, so I applied and I came into Tulane. I was at Tulane for a year.
So you weren't that smart. You were real smart.
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, like, I think I was just very lucky, to be honest with you. And came here, studied there for a year, but it was so expensive. I mean, like, I didn't have a scholarship. I didn't have anything. So it was just so expensive that my father had retired and moved to Maryland because he was a diplomat over there. So he's like, why don't you just come live with me? And so I left to go live with him for a year and went to school there for a year.
Your brother was at Tulane?
My brother was at Tulane. His wife at the time were both getting master's degrees there. And so I was able to go there with them. So it was like the three of us. It was easy because I wasn't alone. It was in a different country, but I was with someone. Well, my brother left because him and his wife left back to California. So I was like, I'm in a house by myself and I don't even know how to write a check. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was different. So my father told me, he's like, why don't you come to Maryland with us and live here? So I was like, okay, fine. So I went back over there, was there for a year, and then my father's assignment got cut short. He was supposed to be there for 3 years, and there was political, changes in Honduras that he got cut short, and so he only stayed there for a year. So I came back here, and then when I came back, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to the school that I want to go, and I picked Loyola because it was a Catholic school. And I thought, well, this is going to be better for me. And, I mean, it changed my life because that's where I met Scott. So I met Scott in March of the year when I came back. And I remember just looking at him and thinking, okay, I really like that guy. Like, I'm going to go talk to him. And I actually was still going out with the boyfriend that I was telling you about before. And I knew the moment, like, I saw him, I'm like, this is serious. And so I called my boyfriend and I broke up with him over the phone, and I told him, I said, look, if I have feelings for this person, I have to be honest with you. So I broke up with him and I started going out with Scott, and the rest is history. Yeah. We got married a year and a half after that. We lived in New Orleans.
She knew.
I knew. He was so, I mean, you've met Scott. He's so sweet.
He's all right.
He's all right.
I love him. I love Scott.
I love him. I just think he's so sweet and so patient with me. He was exactly what I never knew I wanted and needed. You know what I mean? Like, I never knew how much I needed that calmness and that peace in my life, because I'd always dated guys that were like the center of attention, like the life of the party, and you know what I mean? Like, I gravitated towards that. And Scott was so solemn and so mature and so protective and so different, and it was so perfect for me at the time, and I mean, and what I needed, really. So I always knew that, that we were going to be together, and then we got married, and that's where the funny part is, because he really did not think that we were going to have that many kids. Like, he was not on board with all this. Like, I really thought, well, she has one.
Yeah.
Is he an only child? What is he?
He's one of two.
Okay.
But he has only child syndrome because Shane, his brother, is like, what, 10 years or 8 years younger than him?
So he was alone
like that. Yeah, he was alone for a very long time. So he's still, we make fun of him because he's still like, he'll serve himself and sit down and eat, and we're like, how do you do that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because we're all like, my kids are like all of us, so because you grow up like that as a family, everybody eats, everybody serves everybody. There, you got to see where if there's enough for everybody. You know what I mean? Like, there's little things like that.
Yeah.
And that's why we tell them, like, you still think you're alone, but you have.
And especially when you're young, like 8 years or 9 years is a ton. Because we look at Lola is 4 and Rocky's 14, our cousin. Like. But then when you get old, it's like, oh, we're all just old.
I have a sister. We had the same dad, different moms, and we're 10 years apart. It's like I was raising this kid. Yeah. So Yeah, absolutely. I see that too.
Is that your closest sibling?
No,
Okay.
my closest is same mom, different dad, and we're 4.5 years apart.
Okay.
So we fought over everything, beat each other up, that kind of thing. So I did have some sort of a sibling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I lived with my dad when I turned 16. So it was just like me and my other sister. So it was like very far apart,
Yeah.
I was mom to both of them, honestly. But yeah.
See, I was always the little sister because I had 3 big brothers. So I had 2 fathers. Well, 3 fathers if you include my dad, of course. And then 2 moms because my sister was like my mom. She was always on top of me. She was always like strict. And I did not like her at all.
Yeah.
She and I were not close growing up. Like, because she was a rule follower and I was not. I was like, okay, curfew's 12. I'll be there at 1. And it'll be fine because it's just 1 hour.
Yeah.
So I always pushed the limit for sure, both at home and here. And Reina, my sister's not like that. She is like, whatever my parents would say, she always did. And so that she always was like my mom.
Yeah.
You know? We used to call her my grandma, like mi abuela. Mi abuela, always. Because she was so mean and she was so strict with me. But I needed it. I really do. And looking back, she always makes fun of me. She's like, Ella, you were wild. I'm like, I wasn't wild. I just had a lot of energy. And like I wanted to do a lot of things, Like I wasn't... My friends make fun of me because they're always like, we never knew what to expect from you, and like we never thought that you were like going to be married and have all these kids and be like a mom, like they did not, because I was like woo partying and like going crazy, and like kids, like I see my kids coming back from college to play with their brothers. I was like, yeah, right, like I was gonna do that in college? No way. I was like partying every weekend, like crazy. And I was telling Matthew the other day, my oldest son, I was like, because they have gotten really close with their cousins, my brother's kids, since December. And so they talk all the time. And they're like, those are good girls. And I said, I was a good girl. And he looked at me like, I'm like, I was like, Matthew. I said, I was a good girl. He's like, no, you were good.
He's been hearing some stories from the other side.
But I mean, I like to go out. I really did. That was my thing, And I had a full conversion. I don't even drink anymore.
Yeah.
But I do. I mean, I enjoyed that. And going back to Honduras and just letting you know, like, even though I was crazy and even though I did all these things, I always had my faith front and center. And that was something that I think anybody that knew me before could tell you that. I always went to Mass. That was like my favorite way of praying, was definitely Mass. We had something called El Rol, which was, it was so silly in Honduras. There's nothing to do. So at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, everybody went to this like strip, this boulevard, and would just roll around. So it was called the roll. That's what it was called. So at 5 o'clock, all the kids with cars would like go around, and they always see each other. After like 15 minutes, everybody would park in different restaurants and chat.
That's cool.
But at the same time, like at 5:30, 6 o'clock, there was Mass. So I would do that and then go to Mass because it was right around there. And I remember like that was so much fun for me, because I really truly enjoy the Mass. That's probably, like I told you, my favorite way to pray till this day. Like I love adoration and I think it's beautiful, but I think that for me the Mass is the most calming and most beautiful, peaceful thing to do. Like there's no comparison at all with anything, with any other prayer. I try to go to Mass as much as I can. I try to go to daily Mass, and I'm fortunate enough here to work at hospitals where there is Mass. So at the Lake there's a Mass at 11:30, and at the General there's a Mass, on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 o'clock. So when I'm in those places and I can go, I do go to Mass every day if I'm able to. So my faith has always been something that was front and center. I know that throughout the years and as I mature, it clearly has gotten stronger, and the more I learn about my faith, the more I fall in love with it. I went through years where we just went to Mass and that was it. You know what I mean? Like we didn't do anything extra. We didn't, because we were living life.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Like I find that you have to be real and you have to be honest with yourself, that sometimes you can't make all these devotions and these rosaries and all these prayers, and it's okay, because God is not expecting you to just do, right? You live your life. And I think it was San Jose Maria that used to say that, like, find God in the ordinary, like you surrender yourself in like the mundane, right? In the stupid little laundry. And I've always said that, like, like the dishes, that is true sacrifice. Like doing that is a sacrifice because it's nobody gives you credit for it. It's ridiculous and you don't want to do it, but it has to be done. And if it doesn't get done, it's a mess. and that's something that you can offer up. And that's just as good as praying the rosary if you do it with devotion and love for who you're serving, right? And not forgetting that. And so I think that's just, you know, like there were years, like I told you, that it was not as it is now. And I see it in my kids. My older kids always say, like, after you did Acts, like, I think they left you in the closet over there and another person came out and it's like another mom. Because that's really when my faith was like, you know, at the peak. It came up. I went to Acts on 2018. And after that, it was almost like something in me just changed. And it just made me a different person. It really did. It helped me understand so much my faith and fall in love with it to the point where I was so thirsty for it that I wanted to know more about it. And it was just something that I can't turn off. You know what I mean? Like, it's just there and I just want to know more and I want to fall in love more and I want to do more. And so my house kind of looks like this now.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. But it's like, I try to put it in everything because I've always thought, okay, why would I put something secular here when I can put a saint instead and think about the graces of a saint and how I can become better?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I'm going to surround myself with things. I remember one time I opened Facebook and it was like, Happy Donut Day. And I'm like, what? Donut Day? I'm serious. Like, people want to celebrate little ridiculous things. And look, Happy Donut Day for whoever celebrates it, but I want to celebrate something else. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be like, what we have a Catholic, you know, calendar that is beautiful and we can celebrate feast days of real people that lived and really bring value to our lives just, you know, by their intercessions. So why not do that instead? And so we don't celebrate Donut Day in my house.
I'm so extreme to where, like, I want to cut my hair like Padre Pio. I want to wear, we can wear Nike, we can wear.
Yeah, he was trying to wear like a whole monk uniform.
No,
and
that's in order. That's like actually happening. Like, I don't want to choose any clothes. I want to wear like
wear that?
Not as a monk, but I want to wear like a.
I know, but like that would come off like.
Like when people paint, they wear like an apron.
Different
like
stuff,
I want to wear like a trench
when he
coat.
paints, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, and just put it on in the morning, come to work, and go home.
And do it.
But like, you don't understand. He paints in regular clothes, so like his regular clothes would be his painting clothes. So,
right, so that's what I'm saying.
There really
I
isn't a difference.
Wear
he
the
would
monk
look like a
outfit
monk the whole time.
and let my children know.
And then people would be like,
"Are you
You're
married
to a monk?" And then you got a baby on the way. What religion are you? You know?
Well, you know, Orthodox Catholics can
get
married.
Yeah.
I was just looking at that this morning of these like there's this place in, I think it's Chicago, I can't remember where it was. This priest went to like give a lecture and he was like, they're married priests, they're Orthodox priests, and they have these playgrounds outside, and and it's beautiful to see them in their, you know, what are they called? Cassocks, yes. And they're holding babies, and I'm like, that's so beautiful. But they're Orthodox Catholics.
Right,
so,
Orthodox.
Yeah.
They miss
a little bit different, a little bit different than us. But yeah. So that's where I've been. That's where my faith journey's been.
Yeah, and so you mentioned too that you're in the medical field. Tell us a little bit about that and how that's helped you.
So that's what brought me actually here to Baton Rouge. So I was hired by this company called Ethicon, and I've been with them for 21 years now. And so I started working with them when I was in Baton Rouge as a territory assistant. It was a territory assistant level position. And eventually, you know, I think it was 2 years later, I got my own, which was this territory, Baton Rouge, and I've been here since. So I sell medical devices. I do, you know, work with a lot of surgeons and nurses and all sorts of different, you know, supporting staff in the hospitals. It's a wonderful job. It's allowed me with the flexibility to have kids and 5 kids. It's a lot, but it's become a means to an end. I used to love my job, and I still do. Don't get me wrong. It's a really good job, and I'm very, very, very happy. I'm very thankful for Ethicon. It has opened doors in so many ways in terms of who I know, because they can refer, you know, to help me with what I need with my kids and stuff like that. So it's been very helpful for sure. I know that I know you wanted me to talk about the ministry, and I think I went the long way around.
No, this is long form. Yeah, we're
So,
learning about you.
Once, got here, got married, did all this stuff, found out about my kids, and going back to Noah. So when Noah was in middle school, he got really bullied a lot. And it's hard for me to talk about this, to be honest with you, because it's his story. And I hate for me to tell what happened to him, because I'm just his mom. But it was very hard. It was very challenging, because my sweet Noah is he's extremely smart, but he's socially awkward. So it's very, very hard for him to pick up on certain things, and he only sees good in people. He doesn't see any bad, no malice whatsoever, and so he always wants to help. He always wants to do the right thing. And some people don't see that the right way in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And he was made fun of a lot. He was ridiculed a lot. He has a tendency to speak. So he speaks a lot. And it's really hard, because sometimes you're like, okay, no, you need to stop, because they don't know when to stop. So you need to help him with that. And so I was brokenhearted because of the way he was being treated at times at school. Not by teachers, but sometimes by teachers, don't get me wrong, but mostly by peers. And it's an awkward time. Look, it's difficult for any kid. Middle school is hard. Middle school is horrible.
How old was he?
It's
What
the
grade?
word. What was that?
At this point, how old was he?
Noah was in middle school, so he was probably at the time 12, 13, 14. Those were probably the hardest years by far. So hormones were coming in. He goes from being a sweet, funny kid to an awkward, difficult to handle testosterone, boy. Not to mention he's 6'3" now.
Mm-hmm.
So he was growing at a rate that was really high. He's way taller than me. So after middle school, it was so hard, because kids were just, very innocent. Like I said, just to give you an example, there was one situation at school where somebody gave him a card and told him that it was okay for him to say a word, because he has this card now. He has the card so he can say the word. So he said the word, and of course he got in trouble for saying a word that was extremely inappropriate. But he believed. That's how innocent these kids are. And so I was very upset at the school, because I'm like, how can you punish a special needs kid? But remember, at that time, because I was hiding who Noah really was, there was nothing documented in the school. He only had a 504 plan. So that worked out to his disadvantage, because a lot of people didn't see any accommodations for Noah other than extra reading, extra timing. He doesn't like to play here. There was no individualized education plan set up in the school for him, because we never shared the diagnosis from the neurologist. We never did the evaluations. We never did that, because Noah he always says, I'm just a little special. That's what he says. He's so sweet. I really love Noah. He's so deep, and his faith is so amazing. Have you met him?
Yeah.
I don't remember if you did.
We met all of
We
them.
had it
Okay.
in
That's
the
right.
theater.
That's right.
Yeah,
Right.
We got to hang in the theater.
Yes.
I didn't even get to see it, but I was.
That's for the boys, okay?
I know, right?
Yes.
Men's cave.
Yes, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah.
So anyway, you met him, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. So Emily had mentioned that St. Michael's had this program, the REACH program, and I was so excited to pull him out of the school system, the public school system, because the primary school system was great, but the middle school system we were struggling with it. And so I thought, well, this is going to be a new beginning, and Catholic, awesome, it's going to be perfect for St. Michael's, for him to be there. And we learned quickly as we were there that, Noah was right, he's just a little special. The classes that he was going in with the special needs kids were not where he needed to be, because he was not better. I don't even know how to word it, but it was not he was ahead of that. Yeah. Exactly. He could function, better in those classes. Mm-hmm. And so then we went to the typical classes, and then it would be awkward, because he wouldn't know when to stop asking questions. So the class was rolled over on him, or he was just so focused on doing something in his computer that he completely neglected things. And there was nobody there reinforcing him to say, stay on task, Noah.
Yeah.
And there was nobody there because the school doesn't provide that. And, you know, there was no SPED or anything. So we went back to this thing where, what do we do with Noah? And so the teacher for the director of the program and I decided that it would be best if we just parted ways. And so we went ahead and just enlisted him, or registered him, I should say, in the St. Michael's program. But St. Michael's is a very strict school, right? Because it's for typical kids. And so if Noah wasn't wearing the uniform right, he would get a detention. If Noah was, just things like that, right? That Noah couldn't keep up. It was just not. At that time, Noah was still struggling with a morning routine, just simple things that we think are typical for, you know, a 17-year-old to get up, take a shower, brush his teeth, make the bed, go to, you know, typical. It was a struggle for Noah, a real struggle in the morning. So we decided, okay, I think it's best if we just step out. So at this point, he went from middle school being bullied to first, 3 months at a REACH program. Didn't work out. Discipline issues. Then we go to St. Michael's and we do not even 6 weeks there, and we were like, no.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been through 3 schools.
Redirect.
Correct.
Yeah.
3 schools. What's wrong with me? Why can't I just fit in anywhere? It starts like depression. We go through anxiety, like suicide, all these things that are happening with him. And I'm feeling here so inadequate and so hopeless because I'm like, how do I help this child? There's got to be somebody that can help me. Like, I don't know what to do. And so we just prayed and prayed and prayed. And I even looked at a school that was just like, I think it was like 12 kids. There's a school in Perryville called the Academy. And it was like 12 kids, and it was like every other day they go. And I'm like, that would be perfect for Noah. We went, and I was like, no, that's not going to be perfect for Noah. It's not going to work out for him. So we ended up going to Dutchtown. And I remember going in crying. Like, I was crying when I walked into Dutchtown. And the assistant in the front told me, she's like, Freshman Academy is at the top. Go over there. And so I went over there. And there was this beautiful woman sitting there, and I saw her, and I was like, who do I need to talk to about admissions at Dutchtown? And she said, the counselor's right there. And so I sat down and I started talking to her and I started crying. I was just crying. And this woman that I had seen outside walked in and saw me, and she's like, what's going on here? And so I was just like, I'm desperate. I don't know what to do. Nobody wants my child. I said, I don't know what to do. I love him. I think he's perfect, but clearly there's something off here. I'm like, and so I went off and I told him everything. She closed the door and she said, hold off. Talk to me about this again. And I said, Noah had, he wrote the special needs bus. And she's like, wait, your son wrote the special needs bus, but he wasn't special? I said, in the special ed program? I said, yeah, that makes no sense. And so she pulled up his file from the middle school, and she started seeing all these things. And she said, let's do this. She's like, I want you to sit down and tell me, like, everything that happened to Noah in the middle school. And so I went through everything, and she was like, okay, we're gonna register him for school here. He's gonna be fine. He's like, because she was one of the special needs teachers that happened to be walking there, and she kind of helped me through all these things that I needed to do. And she told me, she's like, your child, she's like, needs to be in a special needs program, and it's really hard to get him in at this level, because at this level everybody's already in the program. So they're gonna ask you, how come your child functioned all these years without all this help? And the truth is, he hasn't. Like, here's the proof. So I went in and I emailed all these people and I did all this stuff. And a very long story short is, like, we got him after, I think it was like a 6-month period. We got him in the SPED program, which changed completely, because that means that he was available, like, had more, therapy hours, OT out, all these little, resources that he was not getting. He started getting.
SPED? What is that? I know you said it a few times.
SPED. So it's special needs. SPED. Yeah. It's just short for special needs.
Okay.
So it's a SPED program. And so with that, denomination, or with that now, there were so many different accommodations that Noah could have. And it was a team of people, again, like what we had with Mark, a team of people working for Noah, to make Noah a success. So was it perfect at Dutchtown? No, we struggled. We had several incidents. Like I said, it's a 17-year-old boy full of hormones and testosterone that sometimes say really inappropriate things and really silly things. And we worked through that. Well, he was 16, 15 at the time, but now he's 17. He's about to be 18 actually in less than a month. It's crazy. But he has grown so much since then. And this angel that God put, and I tell her that she's a saint, and she guided me through that. And I don't think, and God does that throughout their lives. Like he has placed these special people that have just helped me help them, understand them, and help me get better. And I really feel like I'm a better mom because of that, because of these kids that have acted in this crazy way sometimes. So I was very, very hopeless in that time frame. And that's when I came to the realization that there's nothing in our church for this. There's nothing. I'm crying, I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm alone. And I know there's other mothers like me. There's no way in our faith, in our Catholic community, that there's not other people like me that have felt rejected or lonely or, all these feelings that I was feeling. So my friend Caroline Mondello actually had emailed me. Messaged me. There's this lady in Sanama praying for kids with special needs. I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, you should check it out. She's like, you love to pray. You should go pray with her. So I was like, okay. So I went, she sent me her name, and I went on Facebook and I saw her name, and her name was Jody DeVore. I was like, well, that's interesting. I said, well, I'll reach out to her. And so I did. I'm like, I texted her one day on Messenger, and I said, hey, my name is Ella Dupaque. My friend Carolyn Mondello, send me your contact information. She said something about you posting something about praying with special needs kids. I have few. You want to talk? And she was like, well, I'm having a party. We're praying together. Why don't you just come over? I was like, but I don't know you. It's like, okay, when? She said, it's in January, and this is a date. We have 5 families. Just come. It's going to be awesome. So I was like, Scott. I said, Scott, this lady invited me over to her house. I said, and she invited all of us. She's like, do you know? I said, I've never seen her before in my life. I don't know where I don't know anything about her. I said, but she wants us to go over to her house and pray. And I'm in for that. And he was like, okay, well, let's go. And so I told my boys, my older boys, because they're the hard sell. The little ones will do whatever you tell them, right? But the older ones, they're like, what? I said, look, if it doesn't work out, we'll just go there for 10, 15 minutes and say, hey, thank you, and back out. No big deal. But I just want to go see. So, God is so sweet, like so amazing, because my boys accepted that craziness, and we ended up going to Jody's house in January. It was cold. I remember we walked in, and it was crazy because she had a lot of special needs kids, and nobody knew each other. So one of the kids was nonverbal. Her 3 kids are autistic, and they're precious, okay? They're a hoot. And so no one knows each other. Everybody's in a different environment. Yeah. So everybody's acting out. It was like, to see it now, it was hilarious. Like, she and I laugh about it all the time. So I walked in, and we go to the back, because she has a big backyard, and she had set up everything for like sensory stuff. Like, there was a trampoline for them to just jump. And there were all sorts of things. And she had brought in her niece so that her niece would watch the kids while we prayed, because there was praying for the kids, but there was also just praying with adults. And so one of her daughters, her daughter and my Mark are very much alike. Okay. And so when people are alike, they kind of like fight. Okay, so her daughter was messing bad with my Mark, and Mark was not having it. And so it was hilarious, because Mark had brought in these Paw Patrol little figurines. And he was playing with them, and he didn't want anybody touching them. Nobody touch him. Nobody touch him. And so Sassy came by, and she's like, don't touch it. Don't touch it. The whole dynamics was hilarious to just see that. But anyway, so then there was another little boy that was nonverbal, and they were all jumping in the trampoline. And so Mark kept saying, like, come on, I know you can talk. Tell me. We're like, no, Mark, he can't talk. He's like, oh, come on, say something. No. And I'm like, Mark, be quiet. And so her niece kept looking at Mark like, he's autistic. And I looked at her, I'm like, so is he. It's like, just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine. But we just thought it was so funny that they were all there, and it was a mess.
So
but it was a
pure,
holy mess, and it was hilarious. And we prayed. Everybody prayed. We painted some rocks with our names. I still have Jody's, because I ended up picking Jody's rock and and praying for that family. And it was a beautiful concept that we both ended up telling each other, like, why are we doing this in your backyard?
Yeah.
Why isn't the church doing this? Like, why isn't there a place for us to get together as families and pray? This is absurd. And so the more I got close to her, because she's amazing. I mean, she should be right here.
Oh.
And she's truly amazing. And she said, well, I don't know. She felt rejected by the church because her kids are very loud. It's really hard to go in. In Mass, there's no accommodations. It's very rigid. And so she felt rejected. And so she stopped going to Mass for a while, for a long time, actually. And so she told me, she's like, I'm not, like, she was done with that at that point. And so I was not. So I went to my priest and I said, look, I really just want to talk to you. I want to bring this up to you and see how you can help me. And I remember I had just seen something on the bulletin about like courage and encourage. You know what that is, right? Is the ministry for same-sex addiction, like same-sex attraction.
Courage.
Or courage is, yes, courage and encourage. Encourage is for the parents, encourage is for the actual individuals that suffer with that have same-sex attraction. And so I was like, there's a support group for them and there's nothing for us. Like, how can there be? Like, everything has something. I said, and there's nothing in the diocese, nothing. And so he said, you should really think about starting something like this. And I knew that he was going to say that. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to be the one saying it, because that's exactly how things happen, right? You're, oh, well, you missed it here, take it.
Yep.
So I was like, okay. So I called Jody and I said, we're going to have to do this because there's nothing, but there's support. I said, they're open. So he put me in touch with Deacon Randall. And Deacon Randall Wagasback is the director of, I don't even know, but he's a saint.
And what year was this?
This was 3 years ago.
Oh,
this was 3 years ago. And so when I met with Deacon Randall, I went with Marlene Broussard, which is the DRE at our parish. And I sat with him and I said, this is something that we need, and I need you to help me with this. I said, I don't know how much involvement you want to have with it. You can have as little as you want or as much as you have, but I think that we need to do this. And I think that I'm not alone. I bet you if we did something and like, reached out, I said, it's crazy. And so I started doing research into other churches to see what they did and what they had. And the truth is I've said this all along, like, our brothers and sisters on the, on the Christian side or Protestant side or evangelical side are way better organized than we are at that. But I think it's the way they worship too. So unlike them, we go to Mass together as a family. The Mass is something that everybody's involved. When they go to worship, they drop off their kids at church, at Sunday church. And so that gives them that availability of like having people to help them, and then they're nurturing, their souls that way. So the parents are still receiving God. You know what I mean? There's worship
the
that
message,
way. Exactly. And so I remember I went in Struma, I went to several different, churches, and I was just so impressed. They had all these facilities. They had special needs accommodations in their daycares. Like there was one that actually had for adults. There was 14 adults that visited the church that needed change, and they had someone that helped them with that. So that's when I met with Deacon and I said, how can we not have something? And he was on it. He was like, you're absolutely right. There's a need and we're going to fill it, and we're going to take this wherever God takes it. And at first we just wanted to have a Mass, a sensory Mass a sensory Mass is basically a shorter Mass, something that appeals more to these kids, less light, less sound, no incense, because these things are just, I hate to use the word trigger, but it is. It's just something that makes them more irritated. Yeah. Because they see things magnified. So if you think it smells, Noah would not, like when there's incense at the church, he normally sits in the confession or he listens to Mass outside because it's so strong and we can barely smell it. And he's like, I can't take it. I'm like, no.
Well, that
Dang.
it's honestly like me, because I'm over here like getting a headache from it, you know?
That's exactly how it is. He gets a
yeah.
headache from it, and he can't. He tells me, it's like, I can't do it. So that's when I said, well, Jody and I sat down and we were like, what can we do? And so we met with Bishop Duca, and he was extremely supportive, not knowing that he came from a community in Shreveport that actually had a whole a church that did just that. And so he was very familiar, not with sensory masses, but with giving masses to people with special needs kids, because they have a home that some sisters, I can't remember the order, actually just do that. They just house kids that have been neglected or that have been abandoned because they're special, and they kind of grow there. So they have kids and adults all alike. And so he would give mass to them. So he was very comfortable with that. He was like, I know how, because we told him, I'm like, it's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy. It's not going to be reverent. Like, are you okay with that? And he was like, it's fine. So I told him, I said, you need to keep it short. This mass has to be 35 minutes because their attention span is quick, which my older kids love that. It's like, yes, 35 minutes. There's no music either, because that's, again, distracting, and it just makes it longer. So still reverent, and we ask for these families to participate in the mass. So the readings are done by them. There's an altar server. There's at least 2 altar servers all the time, and we love them. One of them has Down syndrome, and his name is Lane, and he's beautiful, beautiful boy. I love his mom as well. And so the offertory, like the families that come in, is one of the families from the special. So everybody knows each other. And we try to do it in a space that's big so that nobody's on top of each other. So there's no like, oh, I don't want to. Exactly. We're spread out, very, very spread out. So the first one we did was at St. Joseph's Chapel in Acadian. And it was beautiful. It was a holy mass. So not knowing, it was Palm Sunday when we booked it, which is the longest
is it in
mass.
Lafayette?
No, here. It was Palm Sunday here in St. Joseph's here in
The
Acadian.
cathedral?
No, in the chapel, the Bishop's Chapel. That was the only thing that was available.
Yeah, okay.
It's a little bitty chapel. It actually is not that big, but anyway, it was loud because the has a lot of stained glass, and it's brick, and it was just the noise was bouncing back. But it was supposed to be a long mass. It was such a blessing because Palm Sunday is a very long mass, and Bishop did it in this long. It was beautiful. We had a donkey, like a cutout donkey, and we had all these we had these donkey prints that we had put in so that people would follow where to go. And we had palms all over when the bishop took pictures of everybody at the end. He's such a good sport with this. He really is amazing and supportive with this. And the mass happened, and we had a language SNL translator as well. So everybody was touched, and it got, somebody from the news reached out and say they want to do a piece on us, and we're like, wait, what? Like, why? And they're like, wait, they want to do a piece on you. So we ended up having a second mass at St. George's immediately after, and then we just started asking other churches to do it. And the mission was always to do at least once a month, to have the option for those that can't attend mass, because this mass is not for your typical people. This mass is for people that can attend mass because your child is screaming or your child doesn't sit still to the point where you can't attend regular mass because it's very disruptive. And so my dream is to have a sensory mass every weekend. That's the ideal, right? But it's really hard because the priests are very, very, very busy. So we pray, and we've been praying and fasting that we can get more support from the priests and more support in that way from the deaneries, so that we educate more people. Because I think it's twofold, right? I think it's great to have these people back in the community, because so many people have left the church because there's no space for them. So these families can't come to church every Sunday because they can't. They're too disruptive. So they stop going to church, and they start nurturing their hearts with faith. And their faith dims away because of that. And then the other piece is the people that are missing out on seeing these people being part of the church. Because when you see that, your heart, it's just compassion comes out of it. I've always felt like it's such a beneficial relationship to have them, like, and I always say that to the kids and like to the teachers with my kids' classes, like the fact that my kids are in the class is helping the other kids. I know that it can be hard and it can be difficult sometimes, but it creates compassion, and that's what we need in this world. More awareness and compassion of that. And so so that's the hope, is to continue to grow. We do have masses every month for this year, and we have had masses since we started every month for the last 3 years.
And what's the ministry called again?
All are welcome.
Okay.
So everyone's welcome. It doesn't matter what your disability is or how old you are. This is not just for kids, because we have adults that come in and they're like, thank you for doing this, because I did not feel welcomed in my parish, and now I do. So it's very touching. It's a beautiful work, really. God has taken this and make it bigger. So one of our parishioners came in one day and she said, it's really hard to go to the fair when you have special needs kids. Is there anything you guys can do? And so Jody and I started thinking, I'm like, why don't we open the fair an hour early and have an hour just for these kids? And that way there's no crowd, there's no noise, they're free, there's no lines, because they can't wait in lines for a long period of time. And we do that. And so I approached the fair chairman at the time, and she was like, absolutely, what do you need from me?
Which parish was it?
St. John's.
St. John's?
So for 3 years, we've had an hour that we open the fair just for the special needs kids. And what we've done is we have a buddy system. So we get all the volunteers that we can. And so instead of these kids being alone, they have a buddy that rides with them. And so it's normally a peer of their age or someone older. Their parents are there, but it's fun because it's this kid that wants to play with you. Like, let's go ride together. It's not just you, because that's the other thing. It can be very lonely sometimes. I can tell you from my experience, it's really hard for my kids to make friends. They don't get invited a lot into, to parties or anything, because it's very hard. And so having that buddy there and having them say, hey, no, I want to be with you. And I want to ride these things with you makes a huge difference. And so we do that every year. We also have done, for the last 2 years, we've had a family retreat, which is amazing. I mean, the family retreat is one of my favorite things that we do, because we invite the whole family, not just the special needs kids, not just the parents, everyone. So we did that because I always felt like our children, my typical kids, may feel neglected, because there's so much attention and, so much their focus and center is my other 2 kids, that I felt like, no, they need to realize that they're just as important and they're loved just as much. And so what we do is in these retreats, we separate the family. So we have a mom talk, a dad talk, and time just for the siblings. We split the siblings into adult siblings and younger siblings, and then we have activities for the special needs kids. So the special needs kids just go to play. They don't get to talk. They just go and have fun. But my son Matthew came out, and Jeremy, both of them actually came out from the session, the sibling session, and they were like, Mom, that was an awesome talk. Like, we really needed to hear that. Because I don't know if you know him, Scott Jarrow is who did our sibling talk. He's a teacher at St. Teresa, and he did an amazing job. Amazing. He had a special needs sister who passed away, and so he spoke about his love and his relationship with his sister. Amazing talk. I mean, and then we've had the 2 moms that have given the talk have been truly amazing, and to see the faith in these women, and again, not that we compare, but just to have perspective. Their crosses are so much heavier than ours. Like some of these kids, non-functional, like nonverbal,
eating and
feeding tubes, wheelchair bound, never walking, never you know what I mean? Like never speaking. Those are, definitely heavier crosses than ours. And every cross is different, but in God gives it to everybody the way he thinks it's best. Don't get me wrong, but Nicole Cedars told a story, and I'm gonna steal it from her so I can tell you. She's all the credit to her, but she said it, and I've always related to that. She said that having a special needs kids is like planning a trip to Italy. And so you plan to go to Italy, right? And so you start reading about Italian, how to speak Italian and like the food, and you start going to the regions and you're like, we're going to go here and we're going to go here. It's going to be so much fun. And like you're in your mind, you have Italy and you buy your ticket to Italy, you jump on the plane to Italy and you're fully ready, dressed, prepared to spend 7 days in Italy. And you get in the plane and you land and say, welcome to Holland. And you're like, Holland? What are you? Well, Italy is where I was going. And you're like, no, you're in Holland. And so you get out of the plane. You're like, okay, well, Holland is not so bad, but it's not Italy. And you're seeing all your friends in Italy and posting pictures of pizza and the Vatican. And it's so cute. And you're stuck in Holland. And then one day you realize that Holland has tulips. And then you realize that Holland has a Rembrandt, and that Holland has windmills, and that Holland is not so bad, right? And that Holland actually has its own beauty. And you fall in love with Holland. And so that's what having a special needs kid is not knowing what you're getting into, but realizing that God gave you this, and that is just as, as beautiful and as rewarding, and it's just what you needed that you never knew that you needed. I wouldn't be sitting here right now if it wasn't for them. You know what I mean? I am what I am and who I am because of that. Because God decided to give me these kids that are amazing, and that I wouldn't change anything in the world for. So
amazing.
Yeah. And we haven't talked about your last little gift either, because you talked about all four.
Yes.
Sweet girl.
My baby, yes.
Yeah.
So after we had Mark, 2 years after that, our surprise, Isabella came. And so we have 5 children, yes. And so I can't believe I haven't mentioned her up until this point. It's crazy.
Okay.
Thank you for
Yeah.
her. Not that I would ever forget her, but
No, well, I remember her because she was just such like Lola when she came, because she came with us, and she was wanting to play with her. And she's like, oh, well, she wants to go on the trampoline. Is that okay? She wants to slide down this. She was like being mom and making sure. She was just so sweet.
She is very mom-like. She's so helpful with the kids. Like, it's funny. It was like, has Mark and Noah have their medicine? Do you want me to give them their medicine? Like, she's very responsible, very sweet.
She's like your older sister a little bit.
She is. She very much is like that. And that's a problem, Jacob, because she thinks she's older than what she is.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to remind her, like, you're 10. Like, you're
she
just
needs to
10.
hang out with Lola a little more.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. No, they were hanging out the whole
They
time.
did. They did the whole time. I forgot
time.
about that. They did play a lot.
Yeah.
Issa's really good about that, though. Like, she loves to play with little girls, and she thrives with that. But yes, so that was
all these stinky boys in this house, and it's me and mom.
That was a big surprise, though. Like, Issa, the way she came and everything, and again, a blessing, a true blessing to have her with us. Just such a sweet little girl. Thank you for reminding her.
Yes, we had to talk about her. I'm
feel
sorry.
bad.
I know I got you.
No,
off the tracks.
absolutely. I can tell you, like, when I got pregnant, I remember I was at Women's Hospital when, because Scott and I decided we're going to find out. We didn't find out with most of our kids. I think we just did with one of them. And we knew this was our last one. There was no way we were going to have more kids. Like, well, I shouldn't say that. Like, God, whatever God wanted, but it was our last one by age and everything that had happened to Scott with his cancer journey and everything. But so I was at Women's, and they called me to tell me the sex, because we did the testing. And I remember, like, Scott was so sweet. He gave me this, like, pink dress for Christmas. It was like, I'm like, we don't know what we're having. Like, how can you? It's like, I know it's a girl. I just know it's a girl. But we had felt that way before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. We keep talking about this boy.
So I remember, like, getting the call, and, like, just when she said, do you want to know? And I said, yeah, I want to know. And she said, it's a girl. I was just like, I waited 17 years for this, like, I wanted my whole life. Like, I thought I was going to have a girl, and that was something that God just, wasn't happening for us. And look, we never had more kids because we wanted to have a girl. We had more kids because we wanted to have kids, period. But I mean, deep down, I'd lie to you if I told you that I did not want to have a little girl. I just wanted to have that, and when I remember crying. I was crying. And I called Scott and I said, it's a girl. And he was like, I told you, I knew it. And so we went out to eat, and he was just so sweet because I had promised him, I named all the boys. So I said, if it's a girl, you can name her. And he was like, I have the name. And I'm like, what? And he said, Isabella. I said, really? That's such a common name. And he was like, that's it. I'm calling her Isabella. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So her name's Isabella Maria. And she has been a gift from the second she was, she came into our lives. Just pink everywhere. Never had seen pink ever before. Right. I remember walking right after, I was able to go back to Mass as a family. We all walked in together, and there was a lady sitting in the front. And she literally came up to the stroller, lifted up the blanket, and she said, yes, it's a girl. And she went and sat down.
No doubt.
I was like, okay, thank you. Like, people were looking at us thinking, when is she going to have a girl? And so we did. It was beautiful. Beautiful.
Man. I have a few more questions for you.
Yes.
I think I read somewhere about, this might have been Jody's statement about wanting empathy rather than sympathy from our community, the church community. And can you talk a little bit about that?
So Jody does an amazing job at that. Actually, she is going to be at the at Holy Rosary. They do this Stations of the Cross, where they actually walk with the cross. Have you ever been to that?
No, I haven't been. I've heard.
It's amazing. It really is amazing. And so in each station, somebody gives witness. And so she did it. I think she's done it 2 years in a row. This is the third year that she's going to be doing it. And she brings her kids. And for that station, she stands and she witnessed like what her life is like and everything, and how her faith has impacted her life with the kids and everything. And so what we really want to do with the ministry is not just, like you said, not sympathy, but empathy. Like we want people to see them for who they are and to appreciate who they are and what they bring, because they do bring so much joy to our lives and to the community. And like, just to give you an example, like, when we're in those sensory masses, it's so loud, but I could never not hear. I could always hear, and I can pay attention. It's crazy because sometimes I get distracted in the regular mass, but when I'm there, even though it's super loud, it's like it's not, because I'm so used to it, and nobody there stares, nobody there, gives you looks. There's just empathy, and that's what we want to create in our community. Awareness, so that everybody can see them, because we gain so much from just having them around. I've always felt like I was telling you earlier, like, your kids, your special needs kids, bring that out of you. Like, they brought motherhood out of me. Yeah. They have made me a better mom. I firmly believe that. And I've heard that before somewhere else, so it's not mine. But that's what we want from the community. We want to make sure that everybody sees them, because I feel like everybody becomes better when they're around. And I'm not just talking about my kids. I'm talking about, special needs people in general. And
what if there was like a family, because like it was ironic that a couple came, and I'm forgetting their name right now. They came like the day after you came here, and they were talking about their special needs boy. And I was about to carry his butt up here, but they were like kind of like feeling out his temperament. Yeah. And I'm 99% sure that they said they weren't going to Mass anymore. And I was like, and you had like very briefly told me your experience. And so like, as families who have maybe fallen away from going to Mass, what advice would you give them of taking that leap back to it? And like where your feelings are in that moment and that season of life?
So I think that, and Jody speaks very, very well to this, I never felt to the degree that she did, but I think it's important for everybody to realize that it is hard to do this alone. That you need community, and that it is easier to carry a cross when you have other people helping you. And so that's the one thing that I've learned from this community is, if you come back and come to us, call us, reach out to Jody, myself, or Deacon Randall. We are available, and people do all the time, and people come back to the church because of that. And I think that that's one of the best graces that we see from this community, is to see families come back to church, or just come to church, period. Right? So the door's always open, and that's why the ministry is called All Are Welcome, because we want to make sure that everybody feels welcomed every time, all the time. There's no reason why you shouldn't be home here, at home. at your church is what I mean.
Yeah.
We're going to try everything that we can possibly to accommodate. And that's one of the things that Deacon, Jody, and I fight really hard, is to make everybody comfortable. What is your disability? Tell us about it. Like, we do surveys about this before retreats, before community events, so that we know exactly what your needs are, so that we can meet them and accommodate them. So that's one of the things. The biggest thing that I think is on the other end, actually, is the empathy that we were talking about earlier, is educating everybody on how to do it. And what because that's the question that a lot of people ask is, what can I do? Smile. Offer help. Don't stare. Look and say, hey, thank you for being here. Just saying something like that makes a huge difference. Like yesterday I was at Mass, and my son, he always, in the offertory, comes in and they have a basket for kids in the front, so that he goes and does it. Well, I was praying, and he came in and from my wallet took money and ran out. And it was a packed Mass, because it was the women's Acts retreat was coming back. It was packed. He ran down, and they had already picked up the basket. So he was literally at the altar with his little dollar going, where's the basket? I'm like, oh my God. When I turned around, he was already there. So one of my friends that knows me and knows him grabbed him, and he said, the basket is over here. I was running towards it, don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is, there was so much empathy around it, because everybody knows Mark. Everybody knows me. And so they were able to just redirect him. He came back home. He came back to me.
Right.
And we sat down, and it was like nothing happened. Because, like I said, everybody is aware and everybody helped. It was not this, oh my God. But what happened to me, I felt horrified. I felt like, oh my God, I'm the horrible mom that let this kid walk all the way out.
No, this is how we all feel, because our kid,
but I know.
We always say it. If my kid's not going to act like that, no, I'm a good mom, giving yourself grace. And then this is how they're acting right now. And you're like, you're making me a bad mom.
Yes.
Like, I don't beat you. You know what I mean?
You know what the fun is?
It's hard.
It's
hard.
The funniest thing is that I got a text later from another mom that I did not even see. She said, his enthusiasm to go to the altar touched me so much. Thank you for that. And I was like, that's what I mean.
Yes.
Like, they give so much joy to the community that it is a disservice not to have them among us.
It's the full body of Christ.
Exactly.
Like, without it,
we're not complete.
Yeah.
And you talk about too of like how they are like wired and stuff, and how like just how pure they are. Like, some of the crosses normal people have to, carry, and
you're not typical.
And we're attacked by the devil in a certain way. Like, they are not. Like, we kind of envy them in a certain way of like, their life is, they have these challenges, but like, they don't have to face these mentally, you know?
Yeah, and our last guest, Casey Fruge, he has a Down syndrome special needs boy, and I asked him if he knew you. It's probably because I butchered your last name. He said no. But I was asking him about just like the sheer ignorance of our community of knowing, just like we've both said it. We've said normal, or like, and I hear you say typical, and so like becoming aware and less ignorant of all of these things, of saying certain words, and I don't know, how can we do better in that manner?
Well, trying is the thing, and like, there's nothing wrong with saying something wrong and learning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the willingness. Exactly. Your intention has so much to do. And we've interviewed so many families about like, what can we do to make this better? Like, how can you feel more comfortable at church? And that's the one thing that keeps coming up every time, is feeling welcomed. Like, having somebody say, thank you for coming, because it's so hard for you to get out of that house, bathe all these children, get everything ready. I mean, think about all the things that you do to get to church.
Oh, yeah. Jacob's like, we're always late for the 9 a.m. And then the 11 a.m., like, it's just a chaos, because, like, we should have been at the 9 a.m., but we can't make it because of all these other things. And we just have two. Like, we have two, So, and I think, too, like, our faith is very orderly. And so there's a lot that goes into it. So a normal person would already feel a little overwhelmed. And so, like, how do we bring that down to where they are comfortable, but at the same time, they still kind of the ones that can like learn about
Yeah.
our faith.
Yeah.
Like, how can we also like make them comfortable, but also teach them in a sense, you know, that they understand it.
Deacon Randall actually and Jody have sacramental prep. So Jody actually went through and did sacramental prep for First Communion for several children in her parish. And we went ahead and did that. So and my children have been, you know, Noah's getting his confirmation. He's getting confirmed in May. And I'm there. So I'm part of the team that gets the confirmation. So I have to be there to help him. But he's so good about his faith, Noah. He's so deep. And he really is. Like, it's crazy to me. Sometimes we're praying and, you know, we'll read a passage of scripture and he'll say something and I'm like, where'd he get that from? I'm like, oh my God, I didn't teach him that. He's so way deeper. Like, sometimes I read scripture just so to see what he gets out of it because it fills me. You know what I mean? And I'm not that deep. I tell him all the time, like, you really are good at this. And he really is very, very, you know, spiritual in that way. And like you said, I think you mentioned that, like, I think there's purity and, you know, they're so innocent that they have more grace than we do.
Yeah.
They're very innocent.
That's what I tell her. I'm like, there's nothing more pure and, like, I don't know. They're so pure of heart.
They really are.
They really are infectious.
Yes,
and like,
it is.
Like you say, like, we're craving that empathy. Like, I think all the time too. I think it's a lot of kind of how I was raised too, of like very sternness and not so much love, like outpoured or like words of affirmation. So it's like me being that mom when Lola's like crying or something, I'm of course like, what's wrong? Like, let's talk about it. But like, it's very hard for me to like have empathy in that moment too, because I'm just like, wipe it off, let's go. You know, like that's just how I was raised. So too, of like, being more like having those kids put in your life, I'm sure gave you more of that.
Oh yeah. I used to say in my house that it wasn't a democracy, it was a dictatorship. This is a dictatorship and I am the dictator and everybody does what I say and there's no, you know, wiggle room. I am the boss. And I used to tell that to the kids. And my boys were fine with it. Yes, ma'am. You know, no problem. And then I got Noah and it was like, oh, I'm not a dictator. I don't know what I am. But I can't, the same rules can't apply. And it's hard because at the same time, when do you stop, right? Like, when do you stop the accommodating? And that was something that I actually had to talk with my neurologist because I was like, I feel like this kid's walking all over me. And I don't like it. Because when do I stop accommodating this child? When is it time for me to stand up and say, no, you may be special, but I am the boss here and you need to like sit down. And she told me, she's like, okay, let me give you a piece of advice. She said, if he's not doing something that he's going to endanger himself with, like if he is doing something that he's going to endanger himself for others with, you rule in, and no matter what, everything else, it's up to you, like what you think. And so I was like, okay, is it crazy that he has to eat sitting? Like, because my kids eat with their legs up here. It's like they don't sit still.
Right, manners and all the things. Yeah, out the door. Yeah, just please eat.
I feel like that too. I hear like even just with everyday parenting outside of special needs, like parents that look back, they're like, if I could do it again, I wouldn't have been so like micromanageable to my kids. And like, we can all take a piece of that.
You should have Matthew here to see how different of a parent I was to him, or we were actually to him than we were to our kids. And he tells me all the time, like, you didn't even let me watch SpongeBob. Noah's here like shooting aliens. And
the firstborn, I will take it to heart too, because the firstborn always gets that short end of the stick because they are the trial and error kid, you know? And so it's like they are more strict, you know? So you are that, yes ma'am, yes sir.
But you know what's funny is that, you know, he is the same way with them. He's very strict with them. And I always tell him, like, look at you. And he's like, stop. But I mean, it's true. I mean, I am a different parent to each one of them. And to my special needs kids, I try to be very strict. I am when I have to be. I demand a lot. Like today, for instance, Mark was, you know, doing stuff that he wasn't supposed to be doing. And I sat with him and I said, you're punished. It's enough. Like, I had enough. I was patient. I waited. I did all these things for you. But that's it. I said, you're punished for a week. He's like, for a week? I said, yes, 7 days, the whole time,
7
no change.
days.
Because you have to be very specific because then they're very, like, let me tell you the story. Noah woke up one day, it was his birthday. He's like, no, his birthday the next day, and I had bought the cake, and he saw it. Can I have cake? No. Can I have cake? No, it's my cake. It's for my birthday. I said, but it's not, your birthday's not today. It's tomorrow. He woke up at midnight, came to my room, knocked on the door, and he said, okay, today's my birthday. Can I have cake? I'm like,
I love it.
so they're very.
So now you buy cake on their birthday.
Well, now I watch what I say. Like I learn because you have to be very very routine. So my kids are used to going to mass at 11:30 on Sundays. That's the time that he goes. We all go to mass. So if I change the plan and I have to go to mass on Saturday, I have to sit with both of them and say we're going to mass on Saturday because this, and that. And it takes a little bit for them to go, okay, as long as they know. But I can't just wake up on a Saturday at 4:30 and say, okay, guys, we're going to mass, because it's undone. like it's a mess. Like it's not a good thing, and it won't be a good thing at mass if I don't tell them ahead of time.
Yeah.
I allow them. Well, Noah is old enough and fine to just listen to mass, but Mark has a little bag that we bring, and it has all different sorts of toys, like puzzles and things that make no noise. But it's crazy to me because he doesn't look like he's paying attention. But when we jump in the car and I'm like, okay, can somebody tell me what was the mass about? What was the homily about? Or what was, the scripture? What was the readings about? No, Mark, the first one's always like, it was this. And they can literally like say everything. And you would think that he's not paying attention because he's on the floor playing with puzzles, but he hears everything.
I'm sure that like makes him focus though, like playing and fidgeting and stuff.
I think so.
Because Jacob was like, what are you doing on Amazon? You don't need to be on Amazon last night. I'm like, I'm looking at Easter stuff. Yeah.
I said, what you looking at on Amazon? I was just flirting.
But yeah, that's what he says. But I think it's an attack, But anyways, and I'm over here like looking up certain little things because we don't do candy and stuff like that. So I'm just like to the toys.
Easter?
Yeah. And so I see these toys, and it's like Easter stuffers for autistic kids, and it's like the colorful things. The I think it was like some poppers or something. I don't know if like they like that too.
So our sensory masses, we have a bag that we have for families. They can choose to grab it. Some people don't like their kids playing with stuff. Some do.
Yeah.
So we have them, and they have all these different things: poppers, rosaries, all these things like puzzles, feathers, because they like to just play. The softness of his windmills, like little that they can blow because that doesn't make any noise. Some of them have like a bottle with water and like sprinkles and stuff that you can just see through. And it's all like none of it makes noise, so they can play with those things and not make, and it's sealed through so that nobody can open it and make a mess either. So we made these bags in the beginning because we felt like they needed something to have to play with. There's plushies of Jesus in there. There's all sorts of different things. So we provide these at no cost for them to have and then return back so that we can clean them and have them for the next mass. I'm trying to think. I didn't mention, we do have a fun day. So we have a retreat, but we also have a fun day. The fun day is at the end of the year, almost always in November timeframe. And what we do is we have a balloon artist, a face painting artists that come in, and Chick-fil-A and bouncies and all these things, and it's just a fun day. And what we do is there's no scripture, there's no prayer, other than the opening prayer. It is just fun. It's just a day to have fun and come in. There's no cost for it. So we have had so many people come through, and it's open from, I think it's 10 o'clock to like 2 o'clock.
Where do y'all do this at?
At St. John's.
Okay.
And so everybody just comes in. And again, because it's open for a long period of time, people come maybe for 30, 40 minutes and then they leave. And so there's not a lot of people. If we were to have all these people at the same time, it'd be a lot harder to manage. But everybody just comes in and through. So it's very easy to manage, and they love it. We actually have a movie night coming up April 11th. So we're doing a drive-in movie and at St. John's as well in the parking lot. And we thought that would be fun because April's beautiful, the weather's beautiful, so it'd be open. And we have this big projector that we're going to have out, and kids can just be out, and it doesn't matter if they're running, it doesn't matter if they spill something. It's just an easy environment for them to be. Or if they don't like the noise, they can stay in the car and just watch the movie from the car. So that's April 11th at 6 o'clock. And all our activities are at no charge.
Okay.
That's the other thing, that we're trying to just invite everybody to come in and have
Yeah.
fun and be a part of this community. Yeah, community. That's all there is.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because everybody gives, you know, it's not just that they receive. When you come in, you're really like, how can I help? Like, I'm going to do this. And parents volunteer, and everybody does something. We always find people that can come. And we have been so blessed with the Catholic schools here, because the kids that come in for service hours have been amazing with us. We have so many volunteers that they have service hours requirements that want to do this, and we've trained them. Actually, we did a training class for the volunteers, because we wanted to be sensitive of what they're doing and how they're handling these kids, the things that they can say and they cannot say. Or for instance, there's a big rule: nobody takes anybody to the bathroom. If there's a buddy system in place and this kid needs to go to the bathroom, you bring that child back to their parents and they take them to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So we try to be very respectful of those things and mindful. We have charts for nonverbal kids so that they can kind of say, this is what I want, this is what I need, in case they need that. And I mean, the parents are always there, so it's not like they've ever been, left with them. But we do work with a lot of volunteers that come through from the local high schools. All of them, from St. Michael's to Catholic to St. Joseph's to Dutchtown, and they do help us that's the core of our volunteer help that come in, and they've been amazing. And all of them say the same thing: we gain so much. Like, we love coming to this ministry. It's the best ministry to come and get service hours, because they get direct service hours, and it's just fun.
Yeah, that's better than picking up trash on the
side. Exactly. More meaningful for sure. So they do that, and they're great.
Good.
Okay, so that was kind of my last question, was for sure upcoming events and how we can get involved. Exactly.
So we actually have a committee that we just started last year, because we realized that 3 people cannot do the work of this huge ministry. Because we would never be like, who's in the ministry? It's like, it's just Jody, me, Deacon. It's just, that's it. So it's a lot of work sometimes, but it is God's work, and we're going to take it wherever God wants it to go. The most important thing for us is the core of it is the masses. The masses have to be here, and we have to feed the masses. You know what I mean? Like, that's the most important thing. The second would be the sacramental preps. We want every child to get prep that needs to. Not just that, because you said something, and nothing to what you said, is you said something that made me think, like, those that can understand, every child should be getting their first communion. Every child. If you can eat, you can consume. Yeah. Because it's crazy to me. I was last week talking to one of my friends that has a nephew that has special needs. This kid's 13, nonverbal. And he just started this therapy a year ago that teaches them how to spell with like a board. Yeah. This child is on fire, y'all. Like, it's crazy the things that he is saying in this board.
He just needed
almost like a mystic, like saying things that are so profound in faith and saying things that are just, amazing. And so, where was I going with this? What were we talking about? I got lost because I was just so lost in my friend.
So, no, you just kind of got sidetracked because we were talking about everybody should consume.
Oh, yeah, that. Yeah. So we didn't know that he was that aware. Yeah. Like, we had no idea, because this child sitting there doesn't talk, never knew anything. Once he starts communicating, and we realize, oh, my world, like, he's so profound in his faith, and he's so there. And so he needs to communicate. He needs to be that. You know what I mean? And so just because you don't speak, that doesn't mean that you're not, there, and you're not spiritual.
Yeah. And intellectual.
So, exactly.
If not way more.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's important to have everybody that wants to have that prep. And like I said, each deanery is different. We have, at my, church, they've done an amazing job with my Mark and my Noah in teaching them how to be respectful and reverent. And I've been part of that process too. But that's what we're trying to do, to establish in each church for there to be an option for these parents to come and say, hey, we need help. And not just like, I'm going to do it, but somebody do it with you, because that's a lot of times what happens is parents are doing it themselves. And that's great. But somebody should be walking that walk with you as well, not alone. The events that we have coming up are the sensory masses. We have one April 12th, and we have movie night April 11th. And we do have an Easter egg hunt, but it escapes me the date that we have.
And we can put all this in the caption.
We have an Easter egg hunt coming up as well.
So if somebody wants to like sign up or find you, like how would they do that?
So everything is on the diocese website.
Okay.
Nice.
So
Wow.
so on the Baton Rouge Diocese website, All Are Welcome is ministry under that. Yeah, we're official.
Yeah.
We're there. And of course, we have a Facebook page and Instagram page as well.
Perfect.
So that you can, any questions that you have, and we post that. Right now we have a campaign called Welcome Home, All Are Welcome.
Okay.
And so we have 6 families featured that I think during Lent they've come out with stories of each family of how their faith journey's been and how their kids have made them stronger. So I think we're on the 4th or 5th family right now. And so that's something that is coming out on Facebook and on Instagram as well. And we also were picked as one of the ministries to highlight during Lent for the diocese. So there was for the Jubilee. So there was a little snippet of that as well.
Yeah, good. So like
I think I saw that and I didn't want to watch it because I didn't want to
cry.
come up with like, but like I wanted it to be like, interview for you.
Yeah.
But too, you talk about, I mean, I think we all agree that like this needs to be implemented in every parish, every church, every Sunday, not just once a month. Like to any priests that maybe, listening, like how would you go about a priest trying to implement that into their parish?
So this is what I would say. I think that initially we thought, well, we need to add a mass. And I think that's so much to ask for priests because they're so busy already. And I think that gradually and slowly we've come to the idea of maybe pitching it this way and saying, why don't you make one of your masses that you already have a sensory mass? So pick a mass. It could be the 4:30 mass on Saturdays, which is a good mass to start with because I think that time of the day is fine. Or maybe the 6 o'clock Sunday mass if you have one, to do that instead. And it would be beautiful for everybody to attend that mass too, so that they can learn. But I think that before we get to that, there needs to be a lot of education. So a lot of pulpit talks, a lot of educating and perhaps educating everybody and leaving pamphlets behind on the benches saying this is going to be a sensory mass and this is what this is about, so that when you come to that mass you know what to expect, because it would be kind of strange to go into mass and be like, oh, today's Spanish mass. It's like, well, I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
we've done that a few times and it's okay too.
It is, but I think it'd be easier if everybody knew that mass was that. And so without asking them to do an additional mass, I think that would be easier. It's just in everybody's heart, Yeah. And we have had priests that are like, we can do that every weekend here. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And so
it's just about getting the word out. Yeah.
Yes.
And then too, of like Bishop being so on board, we love him too. he's just he reminds me of JP too. Like when I think about him, just revolutionary.
Yes. Yeah.
And so much love. But I feel like he could have that too of like, hey y'all, like this is what we've been doing. Any priest that want to jump on board or have questions, just
he has been
free.
Extremely supportive. Like he has done that, and I know that there was there's some sort of they get together and they have meetings. I can't remember when it was, but I know Deacon came in and was allowed to present to all the priests in the diocese.
Okay.
And so that has generated a little bit more, but it all takes time and prayer. And so I guess the one thing that I would ask is for everybody to continue to pray for the ministry, because we really do need prayer.
Absolutely.
We need guidance, and that's the support that we need. We need, prayer support, and we need support in figuring out how to continue to serve everybody, particularly in the masses, in the sacramental preps. Those are the two things that we would like to go, because everything else is fun and everything else is good and it enriches and it grows. It makes you grow in your ministry, right? Like the retreat and the fun day and the fair time. And look, we're open to any ideas too, because this is something that comes from the need of the community. Like I said, another parishioner one time came and said, why don't we do something for Christmas? It's really hard to take our kids to see Santa Claus. So last year we actually did hire a Santa Claus, and he came in and we did an hour of photos with, actually it was 3 hours. And you just register for 10, 15 minutes at a time so that nobody would stand in line, because that's the biggest thing. You can't wait in line with these kids. And so they will come in and take, 5 pictures with Santa for 5-7 minutes and then move on. And it worked beautiful. I mean, it was just so precious. the kids were so beautiful, and Santa was so amazed. He was like, I'm gonna do this for you guys whenever you want. Like,
yeah, come on.
So he did.
Yeah.
So so that's what I'm saying. Like, and that
it's
was
like when
something
you
that
see that and feel that, and it's just
that's what he said.
It's fruitful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it really is. We're open to other things. It's a matter of what you need. You know what I mean? And we won't know unless you come to us and tell us. Because my kids are grown. Like, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not bringing my kids to Santa. They are already grown. And so that's not something that I need. I need something else. My needs are different. So that's why we always say, like, come join us, come talk to us. We have a support group that meets once a month at St. John's at 6:00 on Fridays. The entire schedule is all the information is posted on the diocese website.
Okay.
So everything is there for everybody to go look at and join us.
Okay.
Good.
Amazing. I think that's it. Yeah, thank y'all for
Thank
you for being here. Thank y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you. I hope I didn't talk too much.
No,
this
amazing.
is-
Amazing. Yeah.
This is your
Beautiful.
story. This is highlighting.
No, thank you.
Yeah. So
I wish Jody would have been here now.
I know.
'Cause we
And your
talked so
husband. I
much.
wanted
I
like
know, I
all of
know.
us in like
Well,
one
we
room.
The thing is, when I talked to you, I told you about Jody, and you sounded like, no.
I know, yeah, because
like you told me, like, no, I want to talk about you, and I was like, okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
And so no, but I invited her, and she said she had exactly the same reaction. You don't have to be with me all the time. She's like, why don't you just do this on your own? And I was like, okay, that's fine. And then I asked her again a couple weeks because it got postponed, remember? So I was like, Jody, you want it? She was like, it's okay. So it was never, you know what I mean?
But this is something we could have this conversation tomorrow and it'd be completely different. So like we'll have her in a month or 2 months, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's do it again.
I would love for you to have her. She's an amazing person. You would love her. She's a hoot.
Yeah.
And she's worked so hard for this ministry. She really is the backbone of it, because don't post this, but when Scott got cancer, I really had to like I was there with her, and then Scott was with cancer. Scott doesn't like to tell a lot of people that. And so I kind of told her, I'm like, I'm going to take a back seat to this. And she led it. And so now it really has been her and me trying to catch up with her. But she's amazing. You would love having her here. Her story is beautiful. She's local. Everybody knows her. Everybody loves her. And she married, had first kid, fine, didn't know he had autism, had a second kid, both diagnosed with autism, third baby, autism. So imagine,
Strong lady.
Amazing
Strong
lady.
lady.
And if you see her, she's a smile on her face, always positive, never, why me? Never like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Like, she homeschools those kids. She spends all day with them, and she is just amazing. Amazing. So she would be a great person for you to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just her, so that you know what I mean? Like, for her to tell you her story.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely a
Cool
good
with
one
it.
to tell.
100%. Yeah.
Good.
Do you want to close in prayer?
No,
Come on.
not
Do a
ready
little
for
spontaneous.
that. Okay.
All right.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Dear Lord, we just thank you for Etta being here and sharing her faith and her journey and her kids with us. These stories are really, what makes us whole and just have peace and have faith and have trust in you. All of these trials that our children put us through only makes us stronger and better and closer to you, Lord. So we thank you for that. Thank you for these miracles that you have blessed us with. And we want to pray for all of the unborn children today. We want to pray for all of the kids who are battling autism. And we love you and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen.